My sweetest moment is to embarrass you more. Warning, some audiences may find this content disturbing. View at your own discretion. Welcome to the House of Reddit. Today, we share some of the recent r/ProRevenge stories posted on Reddit. My sweetest moment is to embarrass you more. When they were younger, my kids would argue about everything. And I mean everything: who sat where, who went through a door first, who got to pat the dog first. They didn't care where we were; if it could be argued over, they would argue. It would start as a verbal argument but would quite often end in pushing and shoving. As well as being annoying, it could also be embarrassing when we were in a public place, especially as both my kids are tall and looked a lot older than they were. So at 10 and 8 they looked 14 and 12. Although this makes them sound like brats, they weren't. When they weren't arguing about stupid stuff, they got on really well and were, and are good kids, and most of the time I accepted it as a phase. But the day came when I had had enough. They'd argued from the moment I met them at the school gate, through getting into the car, the journey to the supermarket, getting out of the car, and walking up to the store and trolley bay. Cue a new argument about who would push the trolley. They both grabbed it, got inside the entrance and stopped close to where people were both entering and leaving, i.e. where there was a large audience. They then start to literally fight over who should push the trolley. They were each trying to push the other one's hands off the handle, shouldering each other out of the way and doing the whole "Mum, it's my turn, Mum, make him stop," etc. People had started to that thing, where they are walking really slowly past us, whilst pretending not to notice. So I sat down on the floor, and I started to sing. I can't remember what the song was, but I really can't and shouldn't sing. I am completely tuneless and don't even sing in the shower as I offend my own ears. Now people did stop and openly stare. My kids didn't notice straight away. It took a few minutes for the sound of my singing to percolate through their arguing. When it finally did, they realized that we were surrounded by a group of people and their mother was sitting on the floor, singing, really, really badly. My daughter hissed at me, "Mom, what are you doing? Stop it. It's really embarrassing." And I said, "Yep. It sucks, doesn't it?" Then I got up off the floor, bowed to the audience of shoppers, grabbed the trolley and walked off to the veg aisle whistling a merry little tune. It was a sweet, sweet moment. Ruined the result of a show after he watched another one without me. So my partner of 4 years and I have always been the type to watch TV shows together and had got into a routine of waiting for the weekend, when we're together, to watch them. Like many other couples, we had watched and enjoyed The Boys together and spoken about how much we were looking forward to seeing the second season together when it came out. When it was eventually out, we watched the first episode. A day or so later he asked if we could watch the second one. I wasn't really in the mood, so I suggested a movie instead. Then life got in the way and I just forgot. A couple weeks later another TV show started airing weekly, which is a personal favorite of mine for about 7 years, called The Great British Bake Off, GBBO. For those who don't know, it's a baking competition and it's very wholesome and pleasant. So when the first episode aired on the Tuesday, I sat down and watched it with my mom. No problems. However, that weekend I mentioned to my partner causally that I had watched it. And he was upset because he considered that one of our shows. Obviously I immediately felt terrible and began to apologize and say I would never watch it without him again. However, I was swiftly cut off by him saying that he didn't care because he had watched all of The Boys with his friends anyway. The betrayal. Safe to say I was pissed about the way he threw it in my face as a comeback and about the betrayal of watching the whole thing without me. Alas, we moved on. However, a couple of weeks later, during a Skype call, he causally dropped the bombshell that he had been watching GBBO with his friends instead of waiting for me. Basically doing exactly the same thing to me that apparently had upset him so much that he felt the need to throw in my face the fact that he'd watched The Boys without me. This bitch. Anyway, that pissed me off because I had stuck to my promise and had been waiting dutifully to watch it with him. Luckily, my petty revenge presented itself a few weeks later when I saw the final result of GBBO on social media just after it aired. I then texted my partner saying, "Oh, I just saw that so-and-so won GBBO, you must be pleased because you liked him." I obviously knew he wouldn't have seen it yet, so I had accidentally spoiled the ending for him. Oops, my bad, Now usually, I would never spoil a show for someone, but I was feeling like a petty spaghetti and was pissed that he had turned around and purposely done the exact same thing to me that had apparently really upset him when I did it, and I felt horribly for doing so. I fed my roommate a dog food. I live in a flat with 4 other people: James, Alex, Bradley, and John. We are all in our early 20s. We have been good friends since we were in school, so it just seemed kind of natural that we'd move in with each other for uni. Plus we're kind of broke and splitting bills is a lot easier on all of us. John is a bit of a jackass when he wants to be. He thinks he's the pinnacle of comedy when in actuality he just irritates everyone with his pranks, which often revolve around spilling stuff on our good clothes and effectively ruining some of them, switching food around, hiding our things, etc. He's always liked pranks, but they get unbearable once we moved into our flat together. Before he could be kind of funny, as he only did innocent pranks every now and then, but not they are affecting everyone negatively, and to be quite honest, they're goddamn annoying. He is very cruel towards Bradley in particular, which has almost led to some physical fights between us on some occasions. Bradley is visually impaired, to the point where he has a guide dog to help him get around. Her name is Trixie and she's an adorable golden retriever, not important but she deserves recognition. John will often prank Bradley. He'll jump out at him to scare him, hide Bradley's things, move furniture to mess with him, and even went as far as hiding Trixie's lead, which made Bradley miss an important lecture at uni. Before you guys say it, we are stuck with John until our lease is up, then we are moving to a smaller flat, just myself, Bradley and James, as Alex is planning to move in with his girlfriend. We would not still be living with him now if we had a choice. We think that he's like this with Bradley because 1. He can't see very well, which makes him an easy target, and 2. Bradley has his own bedroom and doesn't have to share with anyone. Our flat has 3 bedrooms. I share a room with James and Alex shares with John. Bradley has the smallest bedroom in the flat, as he prefers smaller rooms. He also checked with us to see if this was okay, as he didn't want us tripping over Trixie or having dog hair all over our stuff. We all agreed that this was fine, but John has always been a bit bitter about it. The bullying had calmed down since lockdown, as we were always there to keep an eye on things, but some of us are back at work now, so there are times where John is alone with Bradley. On one of these occasions, John decided to switch our tomato soup with chicken soup. Bradley always has soup when he gets up, but chicken soup makes him physically ill. He's not allergic to anything in it, but he doesn't react well to it. As a result, there is a part of the cupboard in the kitchen that is reserved for Bradley's stuff. So there's no mix-up and he knows where his food is. As you can imagine, Bradley couldn't see the label and ate the soup, making him throw up. It doesn't help that Bradley gets very panicked when he's sick. Again, John knew this. I got back from class and found Bradley on the bathroom floor shaking and crying. I stayed with him till he felt better, then helped him get into bed. He told me that he must have mixed up the tins. I thought it was weird. We don't even buy chicken soup, mostly because none of us eat a lot of soup. I questioned John about it and he admitted it, pretty smugly. He even made a joke that he should have switched it with Trixie's food instead. He was not sorry, though he did reluctantly apologize to Bradley. The other night, I decided to make bolognese pasta for dinner, one of the very few things I know how to cook. I was waiting for the pasta to boil, just looking around the kitchen when I spotted it. Trixie's food bowl. Well, John pulls pranks all the time. I'm pretty sure he could cope with a little bit of petty revenge. I grabbed a tin of dog food and decided to make John his own special bowl of pasta. I drained out most of the gravy from the dog meat and covered it in sauce, just to hide the color. Nothing can disguise the taste of dog food, trust me. This is genuinely one of my proudest moments. Sad, I know, and I was genuinely tempted to do an evil villain laugh as I plated up everyone's food and informed the rest of my flatmates that no one was to eat from John's bowl. Needless to say, dinner was a lot more entertaining that night. John rushed to the bathroom, claiming that I had poisoned him. He wasn't sick, but the thought of what he had just eaten made him feel rather queasy. He actually called his mummy to yell at me. She claimed that we were bullying her son, though she was not too keen to hear about how he'd been treating Bradley. It's been kind of awkward in our flat for the past few days, but I wouldn't change a thing. Bradley gave me a hug the other night and said that he appreciated my little petty revenge in his honor. That's all I need to know that I will never regret this. I hope this fits here. I had posted it in another subreddit but was directed here instead. Living well is the best revenge at all. This happened back in 2015 while I was working at a gas station part of a major chain. It was what I'd consider my hell job. You know the kind of job, the one that makes you shudder and happy to be rid of. It wasn't all bad, but it was in a shitty part of town, so we got some real pieces of work through the door. But the biggest piece of work was my coworker we'll call Nate. Everyone else I worked with was great, it was Nate who was the asshole. The man was a misogynist, and I'm not throwing that term around lightly and without reason. He was in his mid-50s when I met him. His wife divorced him and took his kids, so he developed this unnatural hatred for all women. I made the joke to my shift manager that he strikes me as the kind of guy who owns a female mannequin with pairs of scissors jammed in the face. While she agreed, she didn't appreciate the joke because on more than one occasion, she had caught him just glaring at him. On top of that, he'd show up for work 3 hours early and just sit in the parking lot, waiting to clock in and staring into the store. On top of that, the man tried to frame the food lead of his deli for selling expired meat by moving stickers around. All because he wanted her job. So yeah, the guy was unstable. I was young, 22 at the time, and just kept my head down and kept trying to do my job. Well, a managerial position opened at the store and Nate was told by the store manager there to apply. As I heard, he was told, "Yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't hire you." Boy, did that inflate his ego. Suddenly, he's walking around the store like he has the job when all he's done is apply. He's telling me to do stuff like sweep the parking lot or stock the shelves. I'm getting pissed off and I know he's not getting the job. This man failed his food safety certification several times. So, I get an idea. While talking to my shift manager, who we'll call Miranda, I waited for Nate to walk by and loudly said, "Yeah, I threw my application in for the manager position." I thought, what's the harm? Nate's head whipped around. He thought he had it in the bag because no one else was applying. Now he had competition. Nate, so, you applied to, huh? Me, yeah. I figure I have a good of shot as anyone else. He mumbled something and walked off, the wind taken out of his sails. That was all I was after, but it got so much better. Apparently, I took up free real estate in his head because whenever he was on shift and I wasn't, he'd talk shit about me endlessly to whoever would listen. And for hours on end. Miranda told me about it and I couldn't help but laugh. Miranda, what's so funny? Me, I didn't even apply for the position. Miranda, why did you say you did? Me, because he kept acting like he had the job and I wanted to fuck with him. Miranda didn't like Nate at all, so she thought it was damn funny and agreed with me that he wasn't going to get the job. Well, she couldn't keep it a secret and let him know I lied after he ranted about me not being good enough for the job and how I wasn't a hard enough worker for 2 solid hours. The man had been pissed at me for a solid week, thinking I was his competition for a manager position that paid $2 more for a shit ton more work. And as we predicted, he wasn't promoted. They promoted someone from another station and moved him to our store. The man was dejected and moped around the store for weeks. The cherry on top? Not too long after that announcement, I got hired to work a job in my field of study. I announced that to everyone at the store, Nate included, how my college degree was finally going to pay off and I'd be leaving the store in 2 weeks. The man was an asshole who thought he deserved so much more in life than working a shitty job at a gas station, so to see someone half his age actually succeeding in life killed him. He would constantly make jokes about how when it doesn't work out, you're welcome to come back. I laughed and told him I'm sure he'd be happy to see me. I have no idea what happened to Nate, but 5 years later, I'm working a job I love in my field of study and making more money. If you enjoy this video, please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please let us know in the comments below. Turn on the notifications to know when we post new videos. Thank you for coming to the House of Reddit.